And the reason is that all of us are doing terribly dumb things with our money. Now, if I was there live, I would ask a series of questions and we would do this a little more interactively. But I'll just tell you kind of what I do in most talks, which is I ask audiences three questions. The first question is, how many of you, by show of hands, have mindfully bought something locally over the last week? Since you're in common grounds today, I know it's 100% of you today. Second question is, how many of you do your banking at a local bank or credit union? And I'm guessing about half of you would raise your hands. The last question is, how many of you with any form of long-term savings for, say, retirement or kids' college or anything else have even 1% of that money in local business? And the truth is that almost all of your hands would go down. Now, this is pretty shocking because if we had more time, I would present to you evidence that would show that the vast majority of jobs in your economy are locally owned businesses. These are highly competitive businesses. They are highly profitable businesses. And yet we as investors are systematically putting all of our money into Wall Street instead of Main Street. The reason we do this is something that lawyers will be familiar with called securities law. And that is, in the late 1930s, after the Depression, we created a system that I sometimes call investor apartheid. If you're this guy, Gordon Gekko, the top 1 or 2% of people in income and wealth, you are allowed to invest in anyone, anytime, anywhere, no questions asked. If you're in the other 98%, you can only put a penny into a locally owned business if that business has done a massive amount of securities work, some disclosure work that could easily cost $25, $50, or $100,000. That is a barrier. If we could fix this barrier, there could be a transfer of literally tens of trillions of dollars going from the Wall Street economy into the Main Street economy. And the impact on community prosperity would be huge. And frankly, you know, we don't have to have perfection to have a major impact on the local economy. I did a study in 2010 with two other people on the potential impact of shifting 25% of the food economy in metropolitan Cleveland to local food. And we found that if you did this 25% shift in people's spending, you would create 27,000 new jobs, enough in principle to employ at that point 1 in every 6 unemployed people in the economy, as well as pay an additional $1 billion in wages and increase the tax base, the state and local tax base, by $126 million. What would it take in order to achieve this? Well, we calculated that growing the food economy by this much would require about $750 million of investment. And that sounds like a lot of money, but in fact, it's about 1% of what people in the Metro Cleveland area have in their bank account, and about 1/4% of what Clevelanders have in their pension funds. So even a very small change in your investment behavior can have an enormous impact on the local economy. Now, the good news is that over the last 10 years or so, we have made it cheaper and easier for the grassroots to be able to put money into local business. This is President Obama in the signing ceremony of what became known as the Jobs Act, the Jumpstart Our Businesses Act, which he signed into law in 2012. It was implemented in 2016, and it basically legalized crowdfunding. And what this now means is that because we now have about 36 national portals, that is internet sites that do crowdfunding, this one is called WeFunder, it is now possible for every American citizen to put up to $2,000 per company per year into supporting the local economy. Now, the truth is still a very tiny number of members of the public are doing this right now. And the reason is that almost all of us have our savings locked up in savings instruments that are really hard to use for local investment.